All right, we are settling in to our mat. And as always, you can stretch the arms out or the legs out. You don't have to be still either while you're here on your backside. You can always wiggle around in your few moments, especially considering it's only 30 minutes. If you want to start wiggling early, you're more than welcome to. And today is going to be a little bit more playful. We're going to roll around on the floor a little bit instead of being so left, right, linear, this or that. So when I give a suggestion for movement, it doesn't have to be the movement that you take. You can always flip your own script and roll around in any way that pleases you, per usual, actually. Take an overall little body scan here while you're rolling around on the ground or being still on your mat. If anything in general in your body has been speaking loudly to you, perhaps you spend your beginning moments tuning in a little to those spaces. Maybe it's a hip or a shoulder, and you just focus your attention and your awareness there. Maybe it's your neck, or maybe overall you're feeling really fantastic and you don't need to focus on any specific place. Either way, if it's one spot or if you're just sort of floating with your mind's eye over the whole body, sometimes it can be helpful to use soothing and calming words to yourself. It might feel funny at first, but saying gentle things like, "You're amazing," or "Hi, hip, I'm going to take care of you today," or "Hello, shoulder, I'll be gentle." Giving yourselves those little feedback and cues do a lot more for our body and our brain than we think. Start to find your breath a little bit in case you forgot that you're naturally inhaling and exhaling. Let it tell you how you're feeling in this moment. Decide if you want to work to maybe slow it down or to lengthen your exhales. You can find some positive qualities to your breath. Maybe it feels soothing or reassuring. And we'll sit with the body and the breath for a couple of moments of silence before we start moving along here. Whatever shape that your arms and legs took, start to shift around a little. So that might mean that your legs go long, or that might mean that you bend your knees. Might mean that you reach your legs up towards the sky or your arms overhead. Maybe you're working with just one arm or leg at a time as you're moving. You can keep shifting your body if you've been moving this whole time, or you can invite a moment of stillness. And we'll keep the organic wiggles to a few more moments here. And we're all going to come to stillness together, and we're going to start with some upper body twisting here on our backside. So we're going to be moving our shoulders and our rib cage. So you can decide if you want to keep the knees bent and the feet planted onto the mat, or if you want to take the legs long. And I kind of like the knee bent. It feels a little bit more grounding, but it's up to you. You can always change as we start to move. You're going to reach your right arm straight up towards the ceiling like you want to tap it with your fingertips. And then slowly you're going to start to let that right shoulder peel its way off the floor as you reach that right arm across your body towards the left like you want to roll over onto your side. And your left and right hips are going to stay pretty much grounded evenly on the mat. You'll bring that arm and roll back to center. So unwind your little twist here. And then you'll do this 2 more times. So you'll reach back up towards the ceiling like something's just away from your fingertips, across the body. And like you're trying to roll over, maybe out of bed or off your mat. You'll return to center, and then in your own time, you'll take a 3rd twist here. You reach up, over, and then when we take our final twist, you can let that right hip roll a little with you. So whether you roll all the way onto your side, onto that left side, or you just sort of roll halfway over, pay attention to where you want to feel it in the spine. You want to keep it a little bit more to the upper part, a little bit more to the center of your back, or maybe really let the hips twist and play with you here. Nice. These are all beautiful twisting options. Come onto your back once more. You can let your arm rest down at your side, maybe even take a breath or 2 to center yourself. Notice how that first twist felt from tailbone to top of head. And then of course, we'll take all that same action onto our second side. So left arm reaches up towards the ceiling. And then reach it just a little bit higher, letting your shoulders start to peel, and then arc your arm over and across your body. Hips stay even, and you decide how far of a twist you make there. You'll unravel when you're ready. You'll journey into your second twist, reaching your arm up. I'm pretending to roll off my mat or out of bed. And of course, there's one more round, so you unwind and you roll when you're ready. Maybe becoming a little bit more attuned to which parts of your spine is twisting, how your shoulders, how your neck feels as you move. When you take that final round, yep, perfect. You're going to start to let the hips play a little bit. How much they twist, how far the knees roll onto your side as well. Maybe you roll completely onto your side. When you're ready to return to center, you'll be mindful about rolling on back. And then the arms can either stay at your sides, and they can be more of a wider V-like shape, or they can come out like a T shape. And that's just to give you a little bit more grounding, because we're going to move into our legs next in a similar way. So the right leg is going to reach up towards the sky. You can decide if the left stays bent or if it goes long-legged. But you're going to let this leg, whether knee bent or long-legged, go from across your body towards the left and then back towards center. So your right hip might reach up a little bit. Yeah. So right away you all notice, well, do I want my arms in a T or a V? A little bit more support. That's fine too. And as you're reaching your leg across, you bring it back to center. It doesn't have to come all the way down and across to the floor. It can just reach a little bit to the left before it comes back. The shoulders don't have to stay firmly planted. They can lift and rock a little. This is where you really get to play with, where do I want my twist? How far do I want my leg to go over to the side? Do I want to pause somewhere? Some of you are taking several twists. Some of you are holding. All these are really great ways to just get in tune with the hips, how they connect to that lower back area. And then when you bring your right leg back to center, take a little moment to kind of free roll around in the hip. So this might be nice to bend into the knee, bring it towards the chest, rock and roll it around a little. You don't have to use your hand to help your leg roll around in its socket. You can let your hip move freely in any direction. You might get some wiggles for the toes and the ankle too. And then same for our second side, second hip. Whenever you're ready to settle that right leg down, the left leg goes up towards the ceiling, and it doesn't have to be perfectly long. You can have a little knee bend. And then when you're ready, you'll just let it cross over towards your side. Perfect. Reaching it off towards the left. You can bring it back to center. You can stay with it reaching across your body. It's more comfortable to have that leg closer to your body or further away from your body as you're reaching it across. Play around with how far the twist goes, whether the shoulders play or whether they stay a little bit more grounded. You can oscillate in and out of the twist. Pause where it feels nice, or pause where you know it's challenging you in a good way. And then we're going to bring that leg eventually back towards the middle so that we can roll around in that hip a little. You can draw it in towards your chest. You can let it roll around on its own without any help from your hands. Open it any which way or direction. Yeah, I like how some of you are getting your hips into it a lot of it, and some of you are not using your hips as much. There's a good variety there. All right, any other movements you want to make before you roll up to your seat? We'll take a moment to just enjoy the twists that happen before we come on to our bottoms. I like how there's always such a variety of rolling up too. There's not one way to come to your bottom, right? If they were, kids would be a lot more bored, right? Babies would be bored. All right, once you're on your bottom, you can decide if you want to just cross your legs or stack your legs or keep them long, whatever feels nice for your hips and all that. And a little bit of similar the action to that we were kind of reaching and rolling in different directions. Same here with our arms. So if you can imagine that there's a big clock directly in front of you, then you're going to take your right arm and reach it up towards the 12. And then you're going to reach it towards the 11, the 10, and maybe you even lean a little bit forward, the 6, the 5, or the 4 as you kind of go around. And back up to your 12. So we're not just circling through the shoulder. You might also be leaning off towards your side and forward. You could be reaching in the opposite direction and up. So a little shift with the torso forward and back. Arm goes round, yes. And then when you get to a spot or a number that feels nice to switch, and start circling it out in the other direction with your arm. So now you're going like a 1 or a 2. So we're circling around in the opposite direction, same arm. Yeah. Switch directions, not arm is what I should have said. You can always stop along the way if a particular stretch through the ribs or shoulder feels nice. If you're like, yeah, 2 o'clock's doing it for me, then hang out there. Nice. We'll take it to our second arm now, the other arm. That's what we'll switch. So if you want to switch your legs too, if you want to flip the cross or the stack or anything else about your legs, then we'll take it to our second side where we're imagining that we're sort of wanding over. So our 12, and then you pick the direction. Maybe you want to go counterclockwise or clockwise first, but we're rolling around. Circling it all out. Nice. And you'll find a spot where it feels nice to switch, and you'll start to circle around your clock the other way. Maybe you're sweeping a lot more forward or sweeping more back. Maybe your other hand is helping to support you in some way. Nice. We'll bring our arm and our bodies into our center. We'll spend a moment maybe shrugging or rolling just through shoulders, perhaps turning neck or head. Going as slow as we prefer. Maybe checking in with our mobility of our neck in general. Checking in with that spot that's extra cranky or noticing what feels wonderful in our neck and shoulders already. And then you're going to take your right leg and you're going to bend it in towards your body like you're going to cross your legs, and then the left leg's going to plant out to the side, sort of like you're kickstanding it. And I realize it's very dark in the room and it's harder to see that. Okay, so your leg is a little out to your side. Yep, everyone's doing it well. And then you're going to take your left hand and you're going to reach forward like you're trying to get up off your bum. And then you'll pick another direction to shift and reach in. Maybe it's straight in front of you. Or maybe it's up on the little to the corner. And your opposite hand can plant down to support you in any way. It can shift and move around. It's a lot of kind of random movements as you roll over your hip or over that leg that's bent in front of you. Maybe you reach up and a little behind. That's where that free right hand that's on the floor can kind of help support you a little bit when you shift forward or back. And then take one more reach forward, like you really are going to roll onto that front shin and maybe come off of your bottom. And then just before you actually come off your bottom and pretend to stand, you can roll back down onto your bottom. Yeah. And then you have to switch. So that second leg is going to bend in. Your foot comes in towards your bum. And your leg gets to kind of kickstand off to the side, find a good spot to plant it down. And then now you take the opposite arm and do your reaches. So your left hand can kind of plant down to the mat to help you as your right arm reaches in all kinds of directions. I really like doing this particular one. So I know I'm usually still on my mat, but I like this movement. It feels pretty darn good for the hips, for the shoulders, for the spine. Be creative where you reach your palm, where the other one supports, how you might shift off your bottom, more onto your bent leg, more towards your kickstand one. You have a lot of animal friends this evening. I love it. And then one more reach forward, like you're going to come off of your bottom. Maybe push with that hand that kicks down on the floor. And then come back to your bottom side. Nice. And we're going to come up to stand. So if you want to play around with coming up in a fun way, like not just a standing way, but maybe you come out to the side with one of those kickstand legs and actually roll and push your way to top stand. You can come to kneeling squat, try to be a little novel in how you get there, or just go, Valerie, I'm standing up, that's it. Doesn't have to be magical, but it can be fun to play with how you get there. It's good for the brain. Nice. You're going to take a lunge with your left leg forward. So you decide if you want your hips to be a little more square or if you want to have your hips a little bit more wide and open, but it's going to be a standing lunge. And left foot's forward. And you're going to take some of those similar reaches. So with that right hand, you might reach a little forward, a little to the side. You're not necessarily aiming all the way for the ground. You're just sort of reaching in a general direction, like maybe you're pretending to pick something up or set it down. I know we've done this in my public classes. We grab a block and we pretend that we're picking up the block and that we're setting it in another spot and in another spot. So if it helps you to actually visualize that, if you really want to get creative, you can always try to switch and reach with the other hand for a moment or two. So your left hand will do some reaching. If you're all over the place with your balance, that's good. You're challenging it. So that one day when you decide to get off kilter and nearly fall over, maybe you won't. Nice. We're going to return ourselves back to the top of our mats. So you'll just step it forward and you'll switch your legs out. So now your right foot is forward, the left foot is back in a high standing lunge. And then from there, from your lunge, then you can take your left hand and start reaching out like I'm going to pick something up. I'm going to set it down. I'm reaching forward. Maybe I'm going towards the floor. Maybe I'm going directly straight in front of me. Just challenging a little our balance, our leg, the novelty of movement. If it feels like a lot of work for the legs, then you can always shorten your stance a little bit or make your base wider by bringing your feet a little further apart. You might even play with reaching with your opposite hand now a couple of times. Maybe you're picking up that big bag of money that's going to be waiting under your Christmas tree, right? I suppose if you're watching this video again later, you're like, Christmas tree, it's July, Valerie. All right, bring yourself back to stillness, step to the top of your mat. And then find a novel way to come down onto your bottom. So sometimes we just take a nice little squat to get there. Maybe you want to act like you're melting down to the floor. Perhaps you know which way in particular is challenging for you to come to the floor and you practice it now. You put that self before you. You could work your way slowly down to the floor or plunk on down. And in our final moments here, if there's anything that you want to do in particular, go for it. I'll also give you some suggestions, but I like to open that up. If you're like, I just want a happy baby for the next 3 minutes, go for it. If you want to take more twists, then you can always do that. So these are options you can do either seated or on your backside. So if you're ready to start your rest party early, then roll onto your back. Or if you want to stay upright and seated, then first option, if you need some cues, is to take some twists. So if you're upright, you can simply just little sashay side to side. If you're on your back side, then you can take your knees and let them fall side to side. Either way, you're just adding a little twist into the end of your practice because why not? More twists, right? You can either pause and hang out on one side or the other or keep your momentum for your last final moments. And then if you want to add some flexion, so forward folding and upright back bending, if you're upright, then you'll simply fold forward over your legs. The palms can reach forward to help support you on the floor. Another great option is to either forward fold or back bend. We've definitely done those before where we plant our fingers behind us and support and lift the chest and heart. So either one of those that sounds soothing, maybe you give them both a try. How's your breath, by the way? Might feel a little upbeat in that moment of doing leg and standing work, or it might start to be settling in and down now that we're on the floor. Start to consider how your final pose is going to look this evening, whether it's, I say, seated and upright. I fold forward onto my belly and come on to my back. And just because our time is up doesn't mean that you have to stop moving. If you have more time to give, then after I say goodbye, then spend some more time wiggling before you come to your final rest. It's your practice. I would always invite you to keep moving if you have the time, or to stay longer in your rest. But before I go, my final hope is that you take a look back into that inner world of your body. You take a peek inside and body scan and notice how you're feeling now. It doesn't necessarily mean that all the parts feel awesome and better and perfect. It just means that you're observing. You're noticing what things work well and giving some little extra love to those pieces that need it the most. Be it something that's mind, body, or both. Thank you all for sharing your practice with me this evening. I'm honored that you come to your mat, that you come to your Zoom and make do in these times. Our little community is sticking together. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, everyone. Namaste.